The hidden power in saying nothing. Imagine this. Someone throws shade at you. A rumor, a criticism, a public jab that twists your name into something small. Your gut tightens. Your mind starts racing for words to fight back. You want to defend yourself, clear your name, prove them wrong. That's the instinct we're all taught since childhood. Speak up for yourself. Don't let them misrepresent you. But what if that instinct is exactly what keeps most people powerless? What if defending yourself is the trap, not the solution? Machiavelli, the Italian political philosopher often painted as cold and ruthless, understood something brutally simple about human nature. The moment you defend yourself, you accept someone else's authority to accuse you. You step into their frame, their game. And in that game, you're already playing from behind. Power doesn't belong to the one who explains. It belongs to the one who doesn't need to. The one who remains silent, calm, untouchable, while others scramble to interpret that silence. That, in essence, is Machiavelli's trick. Never defend yourself, because the instant you do, you've already given away what little control you had. In this video, we're going to break that idea down and see why it's more than just a psychological tactic. It's a complete reversal of how we're conditioned to respond under pressure. We'll explore why defending yourself makes you look weak even when you're right, how silence can flip the power dynamic instantly, and how to apply this in real life, in arguments, business, relationships, even online. You'll see how this principle, properly understood, becomes not about arrogance or apathy, but about maintaining your center when others try to knock you off balance. Because real power isn't in defending your name, it's in being so grounded that you don't have to. 1. Why defending yourself feels right, and why it undermines you. At first glance, defending yourself seems like the honorable thing to do. You've been misunderstood, attacked unfairly, misrepresented. Of course you want to explain. Human beings crave fairness and social belonging, so when someone threatens that, your instinct is to repair it. You want to clear the misunderstanding, to fix the narrative. This is the emotional logic of defense. It feels honest, courageous, and transparent. But from a power perspective, it's the opposite. The moment you start defending, you shift from leader to accused, from actor to reactor. The frame no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the person who made the accusation. That's why Machiavelli, and later strategists like Robert Greene, insisted that reaction equals surrender. The person who reacts proves they are affected. Defending yourself shows you're emotionally invested in their opinion, which instantly lowers your power. It's like a poker player showing his hand to prove he's not bluffing. The act itself removes mystery, and mystery is half of authority. The less people know what rattles you, the more untouchable you seem. The more you explain yourself, the smaller you appear. Your words might be logical, but perception moves faster than logic. In most conflicts, people remember who looked confident, not who was technically right. There's also a deeper psychological effect. When you argue against an accusation, you repeat it, even if you're denying it. Tell someone, "I'm not arrogant," and the only word they'll remember is arrogant. The human mind works by association. So every act of self-defense unintentionally reinforces the label you're trying to escape. It's a linguistic trap, and once you're inside it, the harder you fight, the tighter it closes. That's why Machiavelli's advice feels so counterintuitive yet so devastatingly effective. The strongest response is often no response. By refusing to fight on their terms, you hold on to your frame, and with it, your power. 2. The strategy: silence, stillness, and reframe. Silence, when used with intention, is not weakness, it's a weapon. It forces others to confront their own noise. In the modern world, where everyone is addicted to proving themselves right, silence stands out like a blade in the dark. It cuts without swinging. When someone attacks you and you remain calm, eyes steady, body relaxed, mouth shut, they're suddenly alone with their aggression. Your stillness turns into a mirror that reflects their insecurity. The crowd watching begins to question the attacker's credibility, not yours. That's the first layer of this strategy. Silence is psychological warfare disguised as composure. Stillness amplifies that silence. Think of how predators move, slowly, deliberately, without wasted energy. Stillness communicates control. It tells the world that nothing said about you can shake your sense of self. When someone expects a defensive reaction and gets none, it unsettles them. Their words start to echo back on themselves. The accuser becomes the one under scrutiny. This reversal is exactly what Machiavelli meant when he wrote about appearances being more important than intentions. You don't need to be innocent, you need to look unbothered. That is power in its purest form. Then comes the reframe, the verbal judo move. Instead of defending yourself, you redirect. If someone says you're manipulative, you don't protest. You might smile slightly and say, that's one interpretation. Or funny how people mistake strategy for manipulation. You never deny, you never accept. You just bend the accusation back toward them, turning their attack into a question mark over their own motives. That's the art of reframing, making them carry the weight of their own words. When used well, it doesn't just neutralize the attack, it flips the power dynamic instantly. 3. The power of narrative control and frame. Power lives inside the story. Not the truth, not the facts, but the story people tell about them. Whoever controls that story controls the room. When someone accuses you, they're not just insulting you, they're trying to write your story for the audience. They want to cast themselves as the brave truth teller and you as the villain scrambling to save face. The moment you defend yourself, you confirm that version of reality. You accept the script. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. If you can't dictate the frame, you can't dictate perception. The person who stays calm, quiet, and unbothered doesn't just resist the narrative. They replace it with one of quiet strength. People don't know the full story, but they know who looked in control. This is why silence feels so threatening to those who rely on manipulation. It refuses to validate their world. When you don't respond, you leave a gap, an information vacuum. And the human brain hates vacuums. It rushes to fill them, often in ways that benefit the silent one. Onlookers start to question the attacker's motives. Why is he so desperate to get a reaction? Why does she seem fine? In politics, in business, even in friendships, this dynamic repeats endlessly. The less you say, the more others project onto you. And projection can work in your favor when you're composed enough to withstand the uncertainty. But there's another layer to this. The ability to redefine the frame entirely. Instead of living inside the defense versus accusation structure, you elevate the conversation. A master of this doesn't fight rumors or slander. They change the topic so thoroughly that the attack becomes irrelevant. They steer focus from accusation to action. They can say what they want. You imply through your demeanor, I'm too busy building something that matters. This reframe converts attention into momentum. The audience moves with you, not against you. That's narrative control, not by force, but by gravity. People start orbiting your composure. 4. Application in real life. Let's start with the battlefield most people face daily, the workplace. Imagine a colleague undercuts your idea in front of your team. That plan's too risky. I don't think it's well thought out. The average response? Defensive explanations, data dumps, desperate logic. But power doesn't rise from logic, it rises from posture. The Machiavellian move is to pause, look them in the eye, smile slightly, then say, I appreciate your concern. Let's explore that risk together. You've just done 3 things: refused their frame, stayed calm, and redirected the energy back to collaboration. The room sees composure, not weakness. The accuser now looks impulsive, maybe even insecure. You flip the dynamic from me defending myself to you defending your tone. In social or personal relationships, the same principle applies but with emotional nuance. When someone says, you've changed, the reflex is to say, no, I haven't. and list reasons why you're still the same, but that only validates their feeling and sets you up for an argument. Instead, you could respond softly, "Maybe I have." Growth does that. That statement doesn't defend or apologize. It reframes. It signals maturity, not guilt. It shifts the emotional spotlight off accusation and onto reflection. Suddenly, you're not the one being evaluated. You're the one introducing perspective. Silence, calmness, and confident redirection become the emotional version of judo, using their force to balance yourself. Then there's the digital battlefield, online discourse. Today's world rewards outrage and explanation loops. A public criticism can spark an avalanche, and your instinct screams to clarify. But in reality, each new tweet, comment, or explanation feeds the flame. The Machiavellian move here is restraint. Say less, then stop. Let silence work. Maybe issue a single confident statement, "I stand by my work," and leave it there. What happens next? The mob tires itself out. The noise moves on, and your reputation emerges with a subtle sheen of authority. The person who doesn't flinch in public storms appears powerful, mysterious, and self-possessed. That's how silence becomes not retreat, but dominance. 5. Limitations, risks, and ethics. Every power strategy has a shadow side, and this one is no exception. Refusing to defend yourself can look brilliant when done with composure, but it can also look cold, evasive, or arrogant. In personal relationships, silence can feel like a wall, and sometimes people need genuine communication, not strategy. If your partner, family, or friend raises a concern, stonewalling them under the guise of power is emotional cowardice, not control. True strength knows when to respond with vulnerability, not defense. There's a difference between not defending yourself and not caring. The first is wisdom, the second is neglect. There's also the ethical tension between influence and manipulation. Machiavellian principles are often interpreted as morally gray because they focus on control, not virtue. But power without integrity corrodes the person wielding it. The goal of never defend yourself isn't to silence truth, it's to avoid being trapped in noise. When used ethically, it protects your energy, your time, and your dignity. When abused, it turns into gaslighting, refusing accountability by pretending every concern is an attack. The key distinction lies in intent. Are you staying silent to stay grounded, or to avoid consequence? Finally, there's the reality of context. In politics or leadership, silence can project confidence, or guilt, depending on timing and public trust. In social media, too much quiet can make rumors grow louder. So mastery of this principle doesn't mean absolute silence. It means selective engagement. You measure the situation, gauge the audience, and choose your move consciously. Machiavelli himself wrote that the wise prince knows when to appear merciful and when to appear cruel. The same logic applies here. Know when silence strengthens your frame, and when speaking restores your humanity. That balance, not rigidity, is where true power lives. 6. How to develop this discipline. Mastering the art of never defending yourself isn't about memorizing lines, it's about rewiring instinct. It starts with self-awareness. Every person has emotional triggers, words, tones, accusations that make your pulse rise and your mouth open before you think. The first step is catching that impulse in real time. Notice your body react, the tension, the breath shortening, and instead of responding, you do nothing. You breathe. You let silence stretch longer than comfort allows. That moment is where power begins. Because for most people, silence feels unbearable. If you can sit in it calmly, you're already ahead. Power isn't about having louder words, it's about having steadier nerves. Next, you build composure like a muscle. The secret isn't faking confidence. It's building enough internal certainty that you don't need external validation. That means spending time alone, understanding your values, and becoming fluent in your own motives. When you know exactly who you are, accusations lose weight. Someone calls you selfish, you check internally and know where that's true and where it's not. No panic, no scramble to prove innocence. You're anchored. People who master this carry an invisible shield, not because they fight harder, but because nothing thrown at them sticks. That's why silence looks so powerful coming from grounded people and so empty coming from insecure ones. The stillness has to be real. Finally, practice the art of the minimal response. When you do choose to speak, make every word intentional. Instead of defending, redirect. Instead of explaining, question. If someone says, "You didn't do enough," resist the essay-length defense. Try, "What would enough look like to you?" The focus shifts from your worth to their definition. You've sidestepped their trap and turned the frame around. Over time, this becomes instinct. You stop burning energy on people's perceptions and start investing it in your own momentum. The discipline isn't silence for silence's sake. It's emotional judo, absorbing force without being moved by it. 7. Case illustrations. Political example. When Barack Obama was accused of elitism during his campaign, he didn't launch into emotional self-defense. He smiled, stayed poised, and said, "I think people know who I am." That single sentence did more than paragraphs ever could. It told the audience, "You can believe what you want. I'm not playing that game." Machiavelli would have approved. By not reacting, Obama framed the attack as noise beneath his level. Silence, mixed with minimal response, preserved authority. Business example. Consider Steve Jobs during his return to Apple in 1997. Critics mocked him for cutting products, firing staff, and ruining Apple's soul. He didn't hold press conferences to justify every move. Instead, he said one thing: focus means saying no. No defense, no apology, just a reframe. Years later, the results spoke louder than any argument could. Jobs knew that defending himself would trap him in debates, executing his vision would end them. That's pure Machiavellian pragmatism. Control the frame through action, not explanation. Personal example. Imagine a partner who says, "You never make time for me anymore." The instinctive reply, "That's not true. I've been busy with work. And remember last weekend." But a power-aware response might be, "I can see you feel that way. Let's talk about how we can fix it." Notice the difference. No defense, no debate. You move straight to understanding and action. That stance dissolves tension without losing authority. It's calm leadership, not manipulation. You're not ignoring emotion, you're refusing to wrestle in it. People who master this approach earn respect, not just compliance. These examples show how never defend yourself isn't about silence alone. It's about choosing the higher ground, emotionally and strategically. Whether on a stage, in a boardroom, or in a living room, composure and reframing create gravity. People stop testing you when they realize you don't flinch. 8. Ethical reflections and conclusion. The deeper question isn't whether this strategy works. It does. The question is, what kind of person does it make you? Used without conscience, never defend yourself can slide into emotional detachment or quiet arrogance. People who hide behind silence to avoid responsibility lose touch with humility. But when used wisely, it becomes something more powerful, a method of protecting your integrity from noise. You learn that your peace isn't up for negotiation. You don't owe everyone an explanation, and you don't need every accusation resolved. Sometimes the most radical act of self-respect is not fighting to be understood. Ethically, the difference between manipulation and mastery lies in intent. If your silence is meant to punish, it's control. If it's meant to protect your clarity, it's strength. Machiavelli's lessons were never about cruelty for cruelty's sake. They were about realism. He saw the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. In that world, power belongs to the composed. But modern ethics adds a new layer. Power without empathy collapses from within. The true student of Machiavelli in today's age is the one who knows how to stay calm under fire and stay human afterward. Power used without conscience corrodes. Power grounded in self-knowledge heals. So, never defend yourself isn't just a trick, it's a transformation. It forces you to master the oldest battlefield in existence, your own emotions. The less you chase validation, the more respect you command. The less you react, the more authority you radiate. Every time you resist the urge to defend, you strengthen the quiet core inside you that no insult can touch. That's where real power lives, not in noise, not in explanation, but in the unshakable stillness of someone who knows who they are. And that's Machiavelli's trick, reimagined for the modern world. Don't fight to prove yourself. Become someone who no longer needs to.